Welcome to the Superhero of Love podcast. I am Bridget Fonger, and I wrote a book called Superhero of Love, Heal Your Broken Heart, and Then Go Save the World. My book is all about helping people love and be loved more than ever. I believe we all have a superhero of love inside of us. Yes, even you, superhero. And in this podcast, I talk to people who are all about helping us all tap into that superhero. May this episode make a difference for your heart. Let's get this party started. Welcome, superheroes. We're here with, oh my gosh, such an incredible man, Will Crossley. He is the president of Piney Woods School in Piney Woods, Mississippi. And the reason why I have him on the show today is that I was blessed to meet him, and we'll tell the story of how he crossed paths into my life. We'll tell that story in a second. I was instantly incredibly impressed by him, and I didn't even know his CV, which, oh my God, I'm just going to list a couple things here, which is he went to Piney Woods School, and he's the first ever president of the school that was an alumnus. I posted on Facebook that I wanted people to tell me if they'd like to be on the podcast if the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting their business life. And he said, well, it's not necessarily a business, but it is something that is obviously wildly affected. So I'm excited to talk to you. In 2013, he was selected as a senior executive service appointee to the administration of President Barack Obama. He served as senior advisor in the Office for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education. Before that, he was chief counsel and voter protection director for the DNC. He was an attorney. He was a clerk at the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Sixth Circuit. I could go on, but bottom line is he left Piney Woods. He was just basically an underachiever. So he left Piney Woods. He went to college, and then he went to law school. And then we went to Harvard, and he got a master's in school administration, planning, and social policy. Welcome, O ye of long CV, Will Crossley.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be with you. I was not expecting you to read through my background, but I'm glad. I'm glad you did. It's always good to reflect on what you've been through, especially when we're going through difficult times like we are as a country now.
I also love that history of experience led you to, you turned away from that huge depth and breadth of experience that could have led you in a completely different direction into politics or whatever you wanted to do, really, with the experience that you had. And you turned and you said, no, my school needs me. And you went back to Piney Woods School to lead it, and you're leading it during an extraordinary time. So why don't you tell the story of how our paths have crossed, because it's a really cool story.
Well, So Adelaide Dixon, who has supported our school, Piney Woods, for a long, long time. I got to know her when I came on to do this work. And it turned out, she shared with me that her father had supported the school before her. And when he passed away many years ago, she and her husband decided to take it up and support the school. And so it's just a really, really awesome story.
It goes back. That story even goes back to the birth of the school, does it not?
It does. It goes all the way back to 1909, or 1907, before the birth of the school. Our school was founded in 1909 by a man named Laurence C. Jones. Laurence C. Jones was a rare college-educated African-American in 1907 in the U.S. who'd gone to the University of Iowa. And another student at the University of Iowa at the time turned out to be Adelaide Dixon's father. And so they kept in touch over the years, and her dad, would invest in the school and contribute to our work. And so it's just a wonderful story. And then I was connected with through a mutual friend, John Bielenberg, with Ed Bacon, who is the extraordinary now retired pastor and rector at All Saints in Pasadena.
And he's been on the podcast. He's been on the podcast once, and he promised me, we actually were scheduled to do another podcast a few weeks ago, but he got crazy busy. But we're going to do a podcast, listen to this, with him and his wife, Hope.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God. So I'm so excited. but yeah, I have interviewed, Ed Bacon was one of my the very first people on this podcast. So we share Ed Bacon and we share Adelaide Dixon, who I've mentioned many times in this podcast too.
Yeah. And so, and Ed says to me, Ed and I were, and Hope, we're all on a pilgrimage, to Pando. And, that's a whole nother story, but we were all on this interfaith pilgrimage, and Ed says to me, "Do you happen to know a woman named Adelaide Dixon?" And and so that's when all of the pieces started to come together, and he connected all of us and so forth. So just a wonderful way for all of us to come together, and I'm pleased to be able to share with you what we're doing now.
Yes. I just wanted to share the story too, that I was at Adelaide's bedside once. She was in bed the last few years of her life, and I was visiting with her, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I always visited with her on Valentine's Day because Valentine's Day was the day that Alec, her husband, had died, but it's also Ed Bacon's birthday." And I said, "Oh, Adelaide, we should send a message to Ed to wish him a happy birthday." So we made a little message, a video message for him, sent it to him. And then he sent me back a picture that he was with you.
Oh, nice.
And then, so I showed her that picture, and she lit up like a Christmas tree. Will Crossley. So she really did adore you. Okay, so now cut to so magical. I'm so glad you're in my life through these two forces of nature. And now here we are. Let's tell them a little bit more first about Piney Woods School.
Yeah, so I'm excited to do that. So Piney Woods School has such a unique story. It was founded, as I mentioned, 1909 by Laurence C. Jones, and he came to Mississippi really following the pathway that had been set by some famous African Americans, including Booker T. Washington and others. He was really enamored with education and wanted to offer it to African Americans in the rural South who didn't have access to education. And so he came here and he tried to start the school. He almost gave up because it wasn't going well initially. And in the South, especially in those days, but still today, when you come here from points north, people look at you with suspicion. And so it can take a minute for folks to warm up to you. And so he almost gave up. And, he was sitting actually reading some old newspapers on a fallen log not far from where I sit today talking to you. And it was there that the first student came along, and there under the shade of an old cedar tree, on a fallen log, he begins to teach this young man how to read. And he invited the young man to come back the next day. The young man came back, and after a couple of days, he brought a friend.
Wow.
And literally, each one brought one until we'd started a school. They moved to a donated log cabin, which was a 2-room log cabin, which became the first sort of schoolhouse and boarding house. Students would come from pretty far because there weren't a lot of educational opportunities for African Americans in Mississippi in those days. And so students would come from far. And so that was where the school began. And over 110 years now, the school has grown, and we sit today on approximately 2,000 acres of land. I have about 40 physical structures here, and we have students not only from Mississippi, but around the country and around the world. And so I have 20 states or foreign jurisdictions represented, everywhere from rural Mississippi to California to New York, Seattle, and Florida, and Ethiopia, and the Congo, and the British Virgin Islands. It's a very diverse mix of young people now from around the world who come here for a unique educational experience. And I was one of those kids, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Now I get to do work to try to ensure that we can continue to do invest in young people going off into the future.
And people still come from far and wide, right, to come to your school?
They do. In fact, it's interesting. We have an Alaska fund, which funds kids from Alaska to come to school here. And over the years, we've had lots of kids from Alaska. And so just literally from all over and around the world, kids come.
Wow. My dad lived in Alaska for most of my life. That's just such a funny, bizarre synchronicity there. Okay. So thank you for doing all the work that you do. Thank you for coming back from Washington, D.C., from the excitement of your life in Washington, D.C. to serve this amazing school. I hope you get acknowledged up one side and the other every single day, because it's extraordinary that you did that. It really is. Well, it's amazing.
I appreciate that. Yeah, but you do this work not for the acknowledgement of it. You do this work because the mission is important. And I believe not just my job, but jobs like mine, service positions like mine, really grow out of calling to something greater than oneself. And that's why we do the work. And so my hope every day is that there are young people whose lives are being improved by what we do and what people invest in here every day. And so if that happens, then it makes it all worth doing.
And when you say we, I know you're talking about the collective we of everybody that is giving love and service to that school. But can I ask you about your wife too, because your wife is at your side at the school too.
So she's a career educator with Monica. Monica has over 25 years in the field of education, and unlike me, who ran away from it and started practicing law and other stuff, and only to find myself back here again, she sort of stuck with it. And so she's taught in the classroom, and she's been a guidance counselor, and she's been a school administrator, and she directed special education programs for a school district. And I mean, just a long CV in this work. She really runs our academic programs every day. That's the hard work. I have hard work too. I do mostly fundraising for the institution, but she's the one who makes it happen here every day. I simply could not do the work without her. And so what's great is there are also connections there. I was thinking of her when I was talking about Adelaide earlier, because Adelaide and her husband spent significant time in Ghana, and my wife Monica is originally from Ghana, West Africa. And so so there are all these connections that we have. Yeah. Yes.
Oh my God, I forgot that part. It's so magical. I just got chills when you said it. It's just so extraordinary. And just so you know, I'm sitting in Adelaide's house. Adelaide passed away. I've talked about her several times, and I did a special episode right after she passed away. She passed away in November at 101, and I'm in her home taking care of it until it's handed over to a university that she bequeathed it to. The family needed somebody to be here to take care of it, and so I left my home to come here for several months. But the reason I'm bringing that up is just that the bathroom that is next to the room, which is my bedroom, so is plastered with the most beautiful invitations. She saved all the invitations to diplomatic events when they lived in Ghana as ambassadors to Ghana. So the entire bathroom from floor to ceiling is covered with these diplomatic invitations, which is so fun. And so we had to have Monica come over and see the magical bathroom because and I'd completely forgotten about that moment that we had.
Yeah, and so she does this work with me, and I just harken back to our founder, Laurence C. Jones. He also didn't do this work alone. His wife, Grace, was very instrumental in this work. She came to do this work from the very beginning, and she actually came from a family of abolitionists. Her grandmother, born a slave, and fought for her freedom and bought many of her family members out of freedom. And her family integrated schools in Iowa long before Brown versus Board of Education. And so Grace Jones, the wife of Laurence C. Jones, came and like Monica works with me, she works with him, two of them who pushed the school forward. And so I I'm always reminded of that, and the work that Monica does here every day is indispensable.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. I had no idea about that reckoning back either to the history. Okay, so now let's bring ourselves into this day whatever feels like day 1 million of the quarantine in California. And I know, just a note for the listeners, is last week we had scheduled an interview, and Will had to at the very last minute cancel because at that very moment they had decreed lockdown in Mississippi, right? So let's talk about how this is affecting you and the school.
Yeah, so it was a long time coming, and I will tell you that I had to make some initial moves prior to the official moves of the state. I could do that because we are an independent institution accredited by the Southern Association of Independent Schools, and so we can act as we need to. But we had the situation of our kids were away for spring break. And it was during that period of time that the coronavirus really became a big issue nationwide. And as we went into that, I started to get inquiries from parents about whether students would be able to return, or what would we do. And so while our students were away from spring break, I had to make a decision.
Wow.
And at the time, no other school in the state of Mississippi had announced closing, even temporarily. No public schools, no private schools. And so I was looking around trying to decide what we would do. And we just had to make the call that our students should stay where they were. We knew that we were.
Wow, Will, that's so brave.
Yeah, we were not like public schools. I had students in cities like Seattle, which had been hard hit at that point, New York, Los Angeles, and every place in between. And so we had to make a decision based on the uniqueness of our situation. And so we did. About just a couple of days later, the universities here in the state started announcing they too were going to be closing and so forth. And so we felt good that we'd made the right decision. But thankfully, I have a physician who's on my board who put me in immediate touch with an infectious disease expert who gave us all the appropriate health advice. And so we made that decision early, but we were very quickly affirmed in having made the right decision. Because had we allowed our students to come back, we would have ended up turning right around and sending them back home. And obviously that was unnecessary expense, and would have.
Because a lot of these kids don't have they're on scholarship, right? So
all of our students receive scholarship to come to school here. And,
okay, all of them do.
And that is, that's been hit by COVID-19 as well, because our donor community, many of them have their own businesses, or, now are at home with kids, this has really disrupted our entire way of being and operating as an institution. And so almost everything that you might think about. So fast forward, it then took our governor, I think, another 2.5 to 3 weeks or so to decide to issue a stay-at-home order. But I think he made the right decision. I'm so glad that he did when he finally did that. At that point, I had to make decisions about how that would affect our faculty and staff here at the school. And so we made decisions about keeping essential staff in place, but allowing others to work from home. There were certain staff members who, unfortunately, we had to furlough at that time because they worked primarily with our students. Once we didn't have students on campus, we didn't have work activity for them. And so many of these individuals they're not the most highly paid individuals in the world. And so it really hit them and their family. They're part of our school family as well. It really hit all of us in a profound way. And so COVID-19 has disrupted life as we know it here at Pineywoods.
Are the teachers doing remote teaching? Are they teaching online? Do the kids have what they need to receive that teaching?
So that is one of the really highlights of how we've been able to continue through this. We started a couple of years ago. This is our third year now with an online curricular program. So our students were already accustomed to accessing their curriculum materials online. So we were ahead of the game in terms of our students being comfortable with that. We, of course, had to figure out, how do you hold class if folks are not in the classroom? And so we began to explore Google Classroom and Zoom and all of these. And we moved to video conferencing to hold online classes. And that has gone really well for some of our kids. For others of our students, it has not gone as well. Two very brief stories. We have one student, a young man. He was on campus here. He was from a state up north, and it turns out that one of his parents works from home, and so now that he's coming to class online from home, he's coming to class remotely. His parent is staying engaged and staying on top of him. And when he was here at the school, sometimes he would procrastinate because mom wasn't there to say, hey, get your, but now he's doing everything on time. I mean,
oh my God, that's so cool.
The faculty were really just amazed at how they always knew he had the potential, but it was just getting him to do what he needed to do. And so now that's happening. Well, on the opposite end, there's a student from the rural South here who he's now at home. And now that he's at home, he's got to help. And so his mom said, okay, you've got to go down. And so he's taken a job bagging groceries at the local supermarket. The supermarkets are essential, and just here recently, I was informed that when he was supposed to be online in class, he was watching this is a 13-year-old kid, and he's watching a younger sibling in the background off screen so that his mom can get a nap because she has to go to work later that day. And so the safe haven that Pineywoods could be for a student like that, it cannot be in the context of COVID-19. And so this plays out so differently for every student. And so our students have what they need in terms of technology, but they don't always have the safe haven, the environment, that the hedge that Pineywood School can be for our kids.
Yeah, that's and we're hearing, man, that just breaks my heart that that a kid has to be an adult, when
Right.
it's so hard to have that on you, such a weight. And we're hearing rumors of domestic violence and things, like the tensions within these homes that are not used to being this pressured. I mean, all of these little houses look so peaceful from the outside, but they're pressure cookers. Some of them are pressure cookers.
Well, and I know that they've called for everyone to stay at home, and I don't want to cut against that order and that advice that's been given, but I will say that we're fortunate that we reside on a campus that has a 250-acre demonstration farm. And so just yesterday and again on tomorrow, I'll be spending some time on the farm. We've planted some tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and some okra.
Oh.
Squash, and then we have our bicycles, and so Monica and we have two girls, and we go out bike riding as a family, and we're able. And so I say that hopefully to encourage people to think creatively about ways in which they may be able to do something as a family that still keeps everyone safe. And doesn't allow this disease to spread.
So let's talk about that hopeful farm too, because that is a ray of sunshine. That farm. Tell us about the farm, and do you have enough people to take care of the farm while all the kids are away?
Well,
oh my gosh,
it's exciting. Agriculture and food does fall into essential job items, and so we do have people who are engaged in that program. We're not scaled up as heavily as we would be if we had students on campus, but we are continuing to invest in our farm. And so we have a full-time farm manager and a full-time assistant farm manager. And then Pineywoods is not just about, we've never been just about ourselves. We've always been about community. So we actually have cooperative agreements with other farmers in the area. And one of our cooperative agreements is with the Alliance for Sustainable Farms here in Mississippi. And so they're engaged on our farm as well. And so through all of us working together as community, we're able to continue investing in our farm. We use all organic practices on our farm to have the healthiest and safest produce that we can grow there, and it's a really exciting time for that work, especially in the midst of things like this, to see things blossoming and growing and new life is inspiring for us and for what we do every day. Every morning, I try to send our students, and I've been doing it by video methods now, but I try to send our students a thought for the day, a little devotional moment, something for them to think about. And on last week, I was with one of our farmers, and he shared with me a quote that goes as follows: to plant a seed is to believe in tomorrow.
Oh.
And I shared that quote with our students, that whatever they might be going through in their homes or in their communities, we have to keep planting seeds. We have to keep believing in tomorrow. And so the farm gives us all of this produce, and it gives us, healthy eating options. In a normal course, we have true farm to table here. We supply our dining services with produce and vegetables from our farm. But the farm represents more than that. It also represents this notion of planting seeds means that we're believing in tomorrow. And so whenever I'm there, that's the inspiration that continues to carry me.
That's a really great thing to end on, is that ray of hope, and that And I'm inspired to, I just feel like I should do that too. I should plant some seeds at my real house. I think that's just such a life affirming thing to do right now. Thank you for that idea. And just, is there anything that people can do if they are inspired to, well, first of all, tell them how to find you online and anything that they can do to help support Piney Woods School?
Oh, absolutely. So I think there are certainly things people can do. One is certainly visit us online. You can do that at pineywoods.org. That's pineywoods.org, pineywoods.org. And you can see some of the things that we're doing here at the school. Importantly, I must say that our scholarship fund was already oversubscribed, and it's become more so. The gap there has grown as a result of COVID-19. And so if you would consider sowing a seed into the work that we do for young people by contributing to our scholarship fund, it would mean so much to our students and to our institution. And so you can do that right online. There's a donate button, and I would encourage people to go there and click that. And then
I just want to interrupt to just say, I just want to reiterate what you said earlier, which is 100% of the students are on scholarship. 100%.
100% of our students receive scholarship from the institution. We do have a sliding scale, and so parental contributions will be either on the lower end or the higher end of that. But all of our students receive scholarship from our donor community, and that's been true for our school for its entire history. And so we cannot do this without others pitching in. And so and our results are phenomenal. All of our students either go on to a 4-year school or a community college or military service. All of our students go on to positive outcomes, and so we're really proud of the success that our young people have. And so we certainly would ask people if they would consider doing that. And then finally, I will say that we are a school of faith. And so, and we are open to all faiths. And so students of any faith are always welcome here. But however you pray, we hope that you would consider Piney Woods School as a part of your prayers, as a part of your thought processes, as a part of your meditations, and keep us in your heart and in your minds. And keep our students, even though they're not with us at the present time, wherever they may be, that they might remain safe. We ask everybody if they would commune with us in those thoughts. It would be so appreciated.
That's so beautiful. I think, and I don't think I'll forget either of the two students about whom you gave us a story. I will be thinking about that 13-year-old who's having to be a parental figure in his house while he's trying to get his schoolwork done. That is just so, it's a really big deal. And I'm sure he's not the only student like that who has those stressors on him.
Yes. It's part of what we do is we create this space in which kids can be kids, and kids can spend some time investing in themselves, and we get an opportunity to invest in them and to empower them. Laurence C. Jones, our founder, said to the first incoming class at this school, "You've come here for freedom, not from the kind of slavery your parents endured, but freedom from a slavery of ignorance of mind and awkwardness of your body, and to educate your head, your heart, and your hands." And so we've been a school that's been about empowerment and freedom for young people since our very beginning. That's still the school that we are today. And so we want to be here to continue offering those opportunities for young people for the foreseeable future.
Thank you so much for all of that. And I oh my gosh, you will definitely be in my prayers. And I ask right now that legions of angels surround every single student that goes to your school and every single faculty member and every single employee that was furloughed. I ask that legions of angels surround each and every one of them and hold their hearts until that joyous moment when you're all back together again.
Amen. Bless you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Will. Oh my gosh. Thanks for coming, superhero. That was Will Crossley. You can read more about him and about the school that he runs in Mississippi at Pineywoods.org. And if you like this interview, or you like this podcast, please subscribe to it, rate, review it, tell your friends about it. We need more superheroes of love in the fold, right? More people that are encouraging us to love and be loved more than ever, just like Will Crossley. Wow. Have a great day, superhero. Sending you lots of love.